He had just received a text that a new beloved was on the way and was tending his roses, cleaning up the debris after the recent storm. Fortunately, his beloveds, well sheltered behind their forsythia screen, had only gotten minimal damage that required a little trimming and a lot of yard waste removal. He just sat back to admire the results when a wave of nausea rolled over him. He couldn't breathe. It felt like a huge boulder had suddenly landed on his chest. He curled into a ball around his belly, trying to get some air. He couldn't think. He was terrified of something he couldn't see, couldn't identify, which only compounded his terror. Fumbling the green phone from a pocket, he texted a short message. "Can't make copy. Feeling ill. We'll get back to you. El Professor." The phone dropped from his slack hand and he glanced around wildly, but the garden appeared calm and serene, offering no clue as to what might be causing this. Still curled in a fetal position, he managed to crawl his way back to the back door and into the house, where he folded himself up in a corner of the mudroom and sat there rocking back and forth, whimpering. Alone at last in the padded room, as I'd started to think of the interview room, I sat cross-legged on the floor, considering the lens I was holding in my lap, trying not to think of the material, the specimen, caught between two glass slides a mere inch from my hands. I wasn't really afraid of something going wrong. I think I was really more afraid of things going right. I didn't want to see what I was afraid I was going to see. I knew I had to get beyond this fear, so I let my mind wander briefly, enjoying the momentary calm before the storm. I thought about first times. The first time I walked into the police station, the first time I met Charlie Wilkins and Janet, Detective Lucero and Officer Farley. I'd finally met Chief McConnell today. That had been interesting, to say the least. I was glad I hadn't met him before. I might never have come back again. Not that he was rude or disrespectful, but I could see he wasn't a patient man to begin with, and this whole process seemed to have taxed his patience severely. For the moment, I was the cause of that vexation to him. I knew he'd only been trying to help, but his bluster and short, choppy sentence structure had not put me at ease, that's for sure. It had been Charlie's hand on my shoulder that had calmed me, and Janet's kind, concerned voice. I didn't know what was going to happen, but knowing they were just on the other side of a mirrored window watching everything happening here gave me the tiniest bit of courage. I took a few deep breaths and centered myself, closing my eyes as I lifted the lens to my forehead, once more seeking into the vision of the sanctuary where I sat on my pillow, the lid on the floor in front of me ready to receive this latest holographic vision. I started vibrating. Blackness. Shadows shifting, bright light, and thin borders around doors that moved up and down, giving the appearance of being in some kind of moving vehicle. Movement stopped. Sunlight bursting in as cargo doors suddenly opened. Hard men with harder faces and rough hands grabbing an arm, a leg, yanking, pulling with dazzling brilliance. Landing hard on rough asphalt. Softer hands lifting up, brushing hair away. A silhouette of someone cast in dark shadow, backlit by brilliant sunlight. An open bottle of water offered, sipping, tasting, drinking the water. A large brown hand takes the bottle. A second large hand is held out in question. A small brown hand shaking tentatively touches the offered hand. Walking to the side of a bright red car. Sitting inside, surrounded by milky softness, a blanket wrapped around, a seatbelt secured, a door closes. Everything fading out of focus, grayness, black. A pause. Then, pale light turns blackness to gray, then to a pale blue. Edges form to show sheets on a bed. A hand brushes hair away gently as offered again. A small brown hand holds the larger hand. Soft gray carpet underneath. A mirrored image of thin legs in pajamas with brightly colored cars and small brown feet flashes past. Chairs and a table, toast on a plate, milk in a glass. A small bite is taken, then a small sip, a view of a matching plate and glass across the table. A large hand lifts toast to mouth, clear eyes watching across the table. A face framed in hair. The mouth forms a small smile, speaks words. Toast is eaten and milk is finished. A swirl of colors, then grapes and berries in baskets on a patio. Standing before an open doorway, black within, a man leaning into the blackness, pulling out something red, sparkling, a chain of bright red beads flashing overhead, coming to rest on a thin chest. Sitting on a couch, a book with bright big colors open on a large lap. A large hand points to pictures. A smiling mouth moves silently. A large hand pulling into a bed. Pale blue sheets underneath. A large hand grasping thin arms. A large torso rocking back and forth. Red light flashing through the vision, faster and faster. Another large hand gripping, twisting something thin, bright red. A swirling blackness. Gone. What's in a name? The tech room had never had much interior space to begin with, having all 4 members of the task force trying to either peer through the window or crowd around the monitor used up most of the available space as it was. McConnell, on his own, seemed to take up all the available space in any room he entered. With his added girth and propensity for labored breathing, the tiny room felt claustrophobic. DA's been all over me on this lens thing. Mayor wants to know what the hell we're doing here. I can't keep forwarding reports up the line. I need to see what it is you're seeing here. Tell me what we're looking at here, Lucero. Josh watched through the window as the space above the hatbox lid took on a large, rounded shape with shades of gray and black, then solidified into images of men pulling a small body out of what looked like a cargo van. Coyotes. Farley, I want you to timestamp this. Farley shuffled the cursor to mark the recording. Got it. Coyotes? Janet wasn't familiar with the term. Runners from Mexico and Central South America. They transport illegal immigrants to the U.S. for a fee. They also supply human trafficking rings. They kidnap kids, women, even men sometimes, sell them as flex slaves. Lucero's voice was sharp. It was a cancer in the country he was usually unreservedly proud of. Charlie kept his gaze fixed on the window. Half his attention was on the holographic image playing out, and the other half watched Elise. He saw the figure of a man backlit by bright sunlight, only a featureless shadow from the viewpoint of a small child. He saw a bright red car door open. Mark that! Lucero's bark startled everybody. Farley jumped as he clicked the mouse. Yes, sir. Too bad there's no license plate. Everyone watched as scenes continued to form within the image. A breakfast table, plates of toast and glasses of milk. Then the view shifted from the table to the center, on the face of a man. Wait, haven't I seen him before? Damn, I know who that is. Mark! Farley swore as he clicked the recording, marking a memory of the face of a killer.